Good morning, everyone. In the chat, please tell us who you are, where you are viewing us from. Question for today, all right, as you all are getting settled. How do you practice Black history every day? How do you practice Black history every day? Let us know who's here, your name, tell us hello, where you are visiting us from. We have 180 of you all, even if only half of you all show up live, and other ones get the recordings. How do you practice Black history every day? Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, Hannah. Hey, Riley, Terry, Kathleen. Good morning, good morning. Buffalo always representing. Good morning, good morning. I'll start in just a few minutes, just to get people here. Somebody from Oregon, go ahead. Morning, Heather. Oh man, it's really early in Oregon. Kristen, how you doing? Thank you for joining us. Introduce yourselves, where you from. Old stomping grounds, Columbia, Missouri. Christine, how you doing? Hey, Mary. DC's in the house. Oregon again. A lot of folks from Oregon. Repping University of Buffalo. All right now. Give it one more minute. Hey, Amy. We miss our people from Missouri, man. Y'all need to start coming to the Teach Black History Conference in the summer. Start saving them ducats. I know they're not paying for that professional development anymore. A lot of social studies teachers, students. I see them, man. You know what I'm saying? University of Buffalo social studies students are the best in the whole college. And yes, I said it. This is being recorded too. Bloomington, Indiana. All right now. We're the largest. We're deep. Dr. Morel did a real good job teaching IDM, because I'm teaching IDM now. My students act like they don't want to listen to me or something. Like they know it all. Well, we'll see once I start grading. We'll see. We'll see. Kansas City. All right, yeah. Maryland in the house. So what's that? The M stands for Montreal. That is funny. Design. All right, now. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get us started here, and people can kind of flow in as they're flowing in here. All right, everybody, welcome to today's session of Black History Nerds. We're just a bunch of nerds that wake up on Saturday mornings just to learn Black history. And of course, we are so delighted to have you here to, listen to Miss Dawnavyn James really present her book, right? Some portions of her book, and really just talk about her love of Black history. Of course, you all know that she's a fellow here at the Center for K-12 Black History and Racial Literacy Education. And she's here to, bless us. Just a few announcements before we go ahead and get started for everyone. Of course, if you're new here, the Center for K-12 Black History and Racial Literacy Education, is a space for PK-12 teachers to learn more effective ways to teach Black history. We do it in all different facets, right? We conduct research, professional development, we provide networking, as well as we advocate for the teaching and learning of Black history in K-12 spaces, right? So if you've been following us for a while, you know that's what we do, and we're so excited to be part of this movement in building Black history education throughout K-12 spaces. Some of our professional development that are going on right now, of course, is our Black History Nerds Now, but we have a, book club on fugitive pedagogy facilitated by Mr. Richard Williams. I don't think Rich is on the call today, but today is a break from, I believe today is a break from the book club. So next week he'll start back on the book club, and I think y'all have a break again for Thanksgiving, and then finishing it off for the end of November and the 1st of December. I believe they stopped December 9th. So come and join Richard and the crew for their book club, Fugitive Pedagogy. So after Fugitive Pedagogy, the first Saturday in the new year, January, Miss Daphne Bibbs will begin her book club, which is focusing on the book Pushed Out, on Black girls, racial literacy and all that stuff there. So make sure you have plans. If you want to go ahead and sign up now, the QR code is right on your top right. So I'll give you a few seconds to get your phones out and sign up for that. And she will finish that February 3rd, and then after February 3rd, Dawnavyn will have her book club for her book that she's going to be talking about today. All right, so I'll give you a few minutes for those who wanted to sign up for it. All right. Also, hopefully in the fall of 2024, we're starting a Teaching Black History certificate, micro certificate. And this is just a micro credential to help people who are struggling with how to begin to start teaching Black history and the pedagogical approaches to Black history, right? So we hopefully will start this in the fall of 24. The certificate program is going to be a year long. Black History Nerds, the book clubs, Researching Race series will all be part of the courses that you can take to receive your micro-credential. So please look out for that. Next, our next Black History Nerd session will happen December 9th. With Mr. Akil Parker, where we're going to take a little different spin on Black history education, understanding statistics to give meaning to Black history, right? So for those who would like to kind of, learn the interdisciplinary aspects of Black history, this will be a great one. So make sure that you sign up for that on our webpage, on our Black History Nerds webpage. And in 2024, we have a good class of people coming in for the rest of the semester. From Abigail Henry, the second weekend of January. Who we have? Dr. Daryl Scott, the first week of February. The second week of February, Frederick Douglass Dixon, and Kirsten Duncan, and Blair Kelly, who has a wonderful book on Black working class, right? So we have historians, we have educators, we have teacher educators. So we'll have some official documents before we leave for the semester for that. And of course, our granddaddy of them all, right? Our Teaching Black History Conference here, July 26th, 28th. Make sure you put that on your calendar. Make sure you're saving your money. It's one of the most affordable conferences out there. Last year, we had over 300 people here in Buffalo. We would love for you all to be here at Buffalo and learn about Afrofuturism as Black history. So begin to start thinking about Black to the future. Also, we have some Black History Nerds swag coming very soon. So I'm not going to show you the t-shirt yet, but just get your money together to get your Black History Nerds. So when we have Black History Nerd sessions, we all can represent with those beautiful t-shirts and hoodies that we'll have. All right. Now, for this session, y'all didn't come here to hear me talk, right? So I'll go ahead and pass it on to Ms. Dawnavyn James. Go ahead, DJ.
Hey, y'all. I am so excited to be here with y'all today to talk hashtag Teach Black History any day, every day, and all year long. LaGarrett pretty much introduced me already, but I'm Dawnavyn James. I am a Black history researcher and educator, specifically Black history educator to teachers. At the moment, I'm a former kindergarten teacher and elementary educator. I am a graduate student, graduate fellow for the center, and a doc student here at the University of Buffalo. And I'm gonna talk to y'all about Beyond February. So a question that LaGarrett often asks is, when did you fall in love with Black history? And so I would like to share a visual representation of my answer to that question. You're going to watch a video from my church's Black history program in 1999. My cousin Bobby recently found this video, and so I want to share that with you, and then I'll read a little bit from the introduction of Beyond February. Let's start that over for. I am an enterprising hair care entrepreneur, philanthropist, and political activist. I invented the hot iron process for straightening hair. I'm reported to be the first self-made woman millionaire. Who am I? When I was 8 years old, I stood in front of a sanctuary full of people in my community. My mama, daddy, grandmother, great aunts, cousins, little brother, and other members of my church stared back at me. With a head full of ponytails, I wore a plaid dress with stockings and shoes, and I held a hairbrush and a hot comb in my hands. I gave a speech describing the early life successes and achievements of a Black woman I had been researching for weeks. Do you know who I was? I was Sarah Breedlove, also known as Madam C.J. Walker. Born in 1867, Madam Walker was an entrepreneur and the first Black woman to be a millionaire in America. As a child, I had no idea that a woman who looked like me made the hair care products and tools my mama used on my hair every day. And ever since learning about Madam Walker as an 8-year-old, I have had this itch to find out more. That same day, my church community also heard from Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X through the voices of my dad and godfather, who each read one of their speeches. My brother, who was just 4 at the time, became George Washington Carver and was mostly eager to take a bite out of the homemade peanut butter and jelly sandwich at the end of his speech. Church was that place in my community where I learned about and fell in love with Black history. And as I fell deeper in love, more and more questions began to bubble up in my mind. What else, I wondered, had Black people done throughout history? What other inventions were we responsible for? And why was what I learned at home and in my church community so different from what I learned at school? Why had I only learned about Martin Luther King Jr. at school, but both Martin Luther King and Malcolm X at home? The itch to find the answers to my questions only increased the older I got, as I continued to learn important and amazing things about Black people, cultures, and histories. So that is just a part of the introduction from Beyond February. And I just thought it was important to just share one of the moments that I fell in love with Black history and my amazing love for the Madam C.J. Walker, who, when I was an elementary educator, I talked about her every year. So before I dive into my favorite parts of Beyond February and parts of Beyond February that I think are important to share, I wanted to honor 2 other Black women who helped me bring Beyond February to life. The first is Lauren. Lauren Simmer is an illustrator. She's an artist, and she created the illustrations that you see here on the cover and the back cover. The title Beyond February, my name and Vera's name is all handwritten by Lauren, and she also created, which you'll see, the illustrations before each chapter, and then she also hand wrote the titles of each chapter. And then we have Vera. If you are an Instagrammer, you may know her as the Tutu teacher. She is a former kindergarten teacher and now a librarian, I believe. And she wrote the foreword for my book. Both surprised that both of these women had agreed. I had no idea that they were going to be a part of this, but very honored that they did and for them to be Black women. And so Vera wrote the foreword for the book. And I love how she started with a quote from James Baldwin, but she really sums up what Beyond February is and how she believes that it is essential and important for educators, and how Beyond February encourages us to go beyond the people, the books, and the curriculum. And the month of February, which we'll talk about here. So one of the reasons that I wanted to write Beyond February is to show the possibilities of Black history at the heart of elementary education, to show that it is possible and there's so many ways that it can be possible. So I have 5 chapters, not including the introduction, in Beyond February. And I just thought about titles and concepts that I use to incorporate Black histories into my elementary classroom. So you have a chapter 1, Beyond the People, chapter 2, Beyond the Books, chapter 3, Beyond the Curriculum, chapter 4, Beyond the Month, and then the last one is The Work Doesn't Stop Here. And we'll dive into each of these a little bit. So the first chapter, Beyond the People, really centers my use of Black people, my sharing of Black people and their narratives in my classroom. And I'm going to read the quote from each chapter as well, because I'm a quote girl. I collect quotes. Learning Black history liberates all children, which is something that I definitely believe, as I did teach, diverse groups of children. I did not teach in a predominantly Black classroom, so I had access to a lot of different children. And Black history can liberate them all. So what you'll find in chapter 1 is an introduction to these powerful people sets. I think it's important that, yes, we can introduce one person to students, but how cool is it for you to be able to introduce them to multiple people that are doing similar things? So one of the powerful people sets, I believe there are 3. One of them centers activism, and it looks at different, it focuses on women activists. And so there's different women throughout this powerful people set, one of them being Ella Josephine Baker. And so I talk about her role I give facts about her that we may not know. I share places where we can find more information. And then I thought about something that you can immediately do in your classroom or in your home or wherever you're teaching children. And so you'll see that for each person in the Powerful People set. And then there are also 5 essential ideas in this chapter for ways that we can teach about Black people, specifically Black historical figures, but thinking about teaching about the whole person, not just the one narrative, like Martin had a dream, and sometimes the false narratives like Rosa Parks was tired. We also have essential idea 2, expanding beyond the people who appear in your curriculum. As a teacher, and I taught in the state of Missouri, oftentimes there was a limited amount of Black people. It was usually just Martin, and that's all we had. So expanding beyond the people that are listed in your curriculum or your state standards, telling the truth, teaching the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, because we do not want to lie to children because they're going to find out anyway. So why not find out in the classroom? Teach about living people as history makers too. There are living Black people, so also focus on them as well. And then trust the children in our classrooms. I talk a lot about how my students' inquiry and their interests also bled into my teaching of Black history by bringing in people that I knew they might be interested in. And my favorite part of this chapter is this template. As a teacher, I love a good template. I like to make things from scratch, but I like when something is handed to me and I can use. So I created this template for the Powerful People sets, and it gives you a chance to create your own set of people, thinking about what identity or commonalities they share, who are these people, what are they known for, but also doing further research to find other information about them. Where can people find more information about them? And then what you can do to expand children's knowledge of that person. And then I make a note to remember that these Powerful People sets cannot cover a person or a group entire history. So this is just a start, a way to get you started, and then hopefully lead you somewhere else, but also being careful of the repeated and sometimes the false narratives that we have of Black people, Black historical figures, historical events. And so making sure that you do your research or have your students do it, because you ain't got to do all the work. And then my favorite chapter, if you know me, I know my mom and daddy on here. If you know me, I'm always talking about books, specifically children's books. I'm always buying books, and I should be buying books. And I'm always analyzing picture books because I truly believe that this is the place where we can start in elementary schools and with young children is by reading them picture books. And so this was my favorite chapter to write. It's something that I present on all the time. And so I had to take what I usually say and put it to words. So I do not think that young readers are too tender for tough topics. Even before anti-racist was a term, my books highlighted social justice issues and engaged students in critical literacy. Kara Boston Weatherford is a children's book author, and she authors other books too. And if I do not have all of her children's books, I'm only like 2 or 3 away from having them all. She also wrote a blurb for this book, and it was just exciting to know that she had, read my work. And so her books are books that I recommend all the time because they are well researched. And she works with phenomenal illustrators that beautifully show Black people throughout history and then also today. So in Beyond the Books chapter, you will find book collections. On social media, I call them like picture book pairings, but they're just collections of books that I think are important to have in your classroom, but these are also collections I had in my classroom. So there's an Inventors collection, an Africa collection, a historical events collection, and a Black Joy collection. And so I talk about how children's books do more than tell stories. They provide information, ignite discussions, and answer questions as well. And although we still have a long way to go, more and more brilliant and beautiful picture books are being published that represent Black histories, characters, and stories. And so it is helpful to consider the different kinds of children's books we read to our students and make available to them in our classroom. Within the broad topic of Black history, the goal is to have a diverse range of genres, topics, and themes represented. And if you go to the center's website, there is a resource for Laguerre's Black Historical Consciousness principles that I used to choose children's books, and I still use it today. But there's one geared specifically for elementary teachers. And so that's one way that you can make sure that you have a diverse collection of Black history picture books in your classroom. And then I talk about ways that I've used picture books in the classroom beyond just reading them and then being done with them. So one of the books I talk about is Moses, When Harriet Tubman Led Her People to Freedom by Carol Boston Weatherford. And I talk about how, as a teacher, the things that we can do before we introduce books to our students. And so one of the things I do is preview the books. And so when I was previewing this book, I saw this page from Moses that depicts Harriet Tubman getting in this water. And so I immediately thought, because I already told y'all, I came from a real Black church in Kansas City, Missouri. And so as I saw her, I was like, oh, she wading in the water. And I remember as a kid being frightened, like I just knew I was never going to get baptized because I did not want them singing Wade in the Water. So they sang it like really low and slow, like wade in the water. And I'd be like, oh, no, you ain't got to worry about me getting baptized. I am baptized though now, but anyway, it was really scary. But thinking about it, as I got older and researching, now I know why they sing it the way that they do, why they sing it low and slow. And so when I read Moses, I stop at this page and I introduce my students to this song. They learn it, I teach it to them, and then they do this activity with the song lyrics, and I bring that into our literacy, looking at high frequency words. And so high frequency words are just words that kindergartners should be able to identify without having to sound them out or not know what they are. And so when I pull Wade in the Water, I usually have them highlight and build the words in and the. And so they learn the song and they do this, and then I read the rest of the book the next day. So just showing different ways that we can take what's in a book and bring it out. And then we also talk about wading in the water, because when my kindergartners look at this, they're like, oh, Harriet Tubman's going swimming. So we kind of have to talk about, like, is she going swimming the way that you go swimming in the summer, or is something else happening here? And so we talk about the context, the setting, and what Harriet is trying to accomplish. And then I also talk about the book A Day for Remembering, which centers Memorial Day, also known as Decoration Day, in Charleston, South Carolina. And we pull out this illustration from a different picture book that is represented in A Day for Remembering as well. So I pair A Day for Remembering with another picture book. There is a song in that one. I think it's Nobody Knows the Trouble I've Seen. I found an article about the first Memorial Day in Charleston, South Carolina. I found a primary source, this photograph of Black kids doing a parade. And so we also do this really cool activity with it. And so, again, just sharing the different ways that we can use these really well done, researched, illustrated, written picture books and bring them into the classroom. And if we can do it with kindergarten, y'all know the rest. You can do it with anybody. And then, of course, I talk about my ultimate Black history book collection. If you ask me now, that list has probably changed since I wrote this chapter. There's also a reference list of all the children's books. I believe my editor said there's over 100 that I mentioned in this book, so you can have access to that. And then just sharing, there's a Black Joy collection. And so before each collection, there's a blurb. So this one, it talks about how Black joy is often overlooked, and we often teach students about hardships instead of triumphs, pain instead of glory. And I also featured this one because my students loved when I just read books about Blackness, where Black kids were being Black kids, and they're with their family. And so I wanted to feature this collection, and then also show that if you have not read The ABCs of Black History. I have probably bought that book 50 times, but I give it away each time I buy it. Lauren Simmer, who's the illustrator for Beyond February, also illustrated that book. And then I also just wanted to share again these books that just center Blackness. This one is by Derek Barnes. I would just wanted to feature this one because my students absolutely loved this book. My Black boys saw themselves in this book, and then even my other students were like, hey, that look like you. And so this was just one of our books. It was always on display. We always had it out. I Am Every Good Thing by Derek Barnes and Gordon C. James. And so I just wanted to share a snippet of that you can find in the book as well. And then popping into chapter 3, Beyond the Curriculum, I was just really grappling with the question, where's the Black history, or where the Black history at? And so the quote for this chapter is, the absence of African Americans within the narrative of the founding of the U.S. curriculum is startling. And as a teacher, I did notice that we were kind of missing. I mean, again, there was Martin Luther King. Maybe you talk about Rosa Parks. Of course, we're talking about enslavement. Maybe sometimes in elementary, we talk about the civil rights, but there was just a lot missing. And so I list these questions that I asked myself when I was looking at the state standards and the curriculum before I taught. So asking, what standards and curricula am I responsible for teaching my students? And then, whose stories and voices are centered in this curriculum? Whose stories and voices are missing? What connections might I make between the curriculum as it is written and the Black histories? How do the standards honor Black histories? What might I add, revise, challenge, or disrupt in order for our teaching and learning to honor Black histories? And so I was often a challenger and disruptor, but sometimes you can also just add a little bit here, revise a little bit, and just really challenge what's being taught to include Black history. And I do believe that chapter 1 and chapter 2 kind of work together to make chapter 3, because in chapter 3, I kind of show how I was able to use my people and my books to challenge, disrupt, add to, and revise our social studies and literacy standards curricula. And so here's an example about learning about rules through a Black history lens. In Missouri, kindergartners are supposed to learn what rules are, what are laws, the rules that are at their home, the rules at school, and the importance of following rules. But I challenged and disrupted the curriculum, and I asked my students, like, do y'all always follow the rules? Because I know you don't, because I'm your teacher. And so we read this book called Speak Up, and one of the pages says, when a rule just isn't fair or much too old, can you change it? And so we talked about the rules that were set in place through Jim Crow laws. And we kind of went back in time and talked about what these laws were doing. We talked about segregation. We talked about discrimination. And so we read books like Let the Children March, which centers the Children's March of 1963, or the Children's Crusade. And so I share how you can use primary sources, again, with picture books. And so just giving your students time to think for themselves, to analyze things, to question, is something that I highlight here with an image like this. In this picture book, the author and illustrator show actual photos from this march. And so I just pulled that out for my students before we read it. And they shared what they saw, what they thought, what they were wondering. And by the time we read this book, they did have a little bit of background knowledge. So they were always also able to share that. And so again, really listening to your students, but also giving them space. Your Black history instruction doesn't have to be direct all the time. Listen to the kids. They usually have very much to say, a lot to say, but just giving them space to think and to process is really important when teaching, especially concepts during the civil rights movement. Chapter 4 really just shows that, yeah, you're supposed to teach Black history outside of Black History Month, but you also supposed to be celebrating Black History Month. And so we have this quote here: by 1921, over 80% of Black high schools celebrated Negro History Week, an educational initiative he, Carter G. Woodson, created in 1926, which later became Black History Month in 1976. Negro History Week was also widely celebrated in elementary schools and popularly covered in the Black press around the country. And so I share here the different ways that I've celebrated Black History Month in my classroom, how I started, and then how it gradually grew. And so here's an image from I had like this little wooden bookshelf in my classroom that nobody was using. And I was like, I'm going to use that for my Black History Month display. So I would change the picture each day, and my students can come over and learn about the person in the picture frame. And then I had a bunch of different picture books. If I could bring in artifacts, I would. So you see here, we talked about the hot comb. And I always tell the story about how my aunties would use and my cousins would use that hot comb on me, especially during Easter, how I hated having my hair straightened with the hot comb. That's why I ain't got no hair now. No, I'm just playing. But anyway, so I talk about the different artifacts, bringing things. And then I also had a jar where they could ask questions, or if they wanted to suggest other topics. So I would say, well, what are you interested in? And then I could highlight different Black histories in that way. And then I always would bring in food. My current Black history obsession is food, and looking at like the history of different food, where it comes from. I have a bunch of cookbooks that I've used in the classroom, but also that I've been reading and just looking at this history of Black cuisine. And so I would often end our Black History Month celebration by bringing in banana pudding. And I would tell my students, you know, there is an OG recipe that my grandma had, and my mom and my uncle really tried me to get. I just couldn't. It just takes too long. Like, there's got to be an easier way to make banana pudding. And so I would bring in banana pudding for us to eat and share and talk about the history of that in my family. You can create stations. We learned about hair. We've learned about inventors and inventions. We talked about Black Panther and Ruth Carter and her costume design. And then I've decorated the door, which you can see down here. And then also, I mean, you could do this throughout the year, but also celebrating and sharing that love of Black music. So listening to Stevie Wonder, Queen Latifah. I love Big Crit. So we would listen to a Big Crit song. It's called Crit Here every morning before my kids entered the classroom. Not just during Black History Month, but like every morning, like that's how we started our day. So bringing in that love during Black History Month, but also outside of it. So you'll get a lot of different ideas of ways that you can celebrate Black History Month. And so I wanted to pull this quote as well from that chapter. Don't wait until February to pull out those Black History Month book collections and activities. When we teach Black history throughout the year, Black History Month can be exactly what Carter G. Woodson intended it to be: a celebration and extension of the histories. And so again, during Black History Month, my students would notice like, oh, we talked about them, or I remember when we talked about this. It really was a time of celebration. And I also would introduce them to like just interesting facts, cool books, cool people that we hadn't learned about. One of the examples in the book that I don't mention here is like learning about George Crumb and the invention of the potato chip, which I learned because I had a fact checker for my book that his sister should probably be credited for, but he's credited for. So just bringing in those different ideas and people into your Black History Month to really celebrate Black History Month. And then the last chapter is the work doesn't stop here. If we intend to teach accurate Black history and empower our students to walk through our nation and the world wide awake, we must become racially conscious ourselves and relentlessly pursue the truth. And so this chapter, I end with a few things. One of them is just some reminders that I kind of mentioned, but now explicitly telling the reader to remember to educate yourself and do the research first, but don't let the fear of not knowing everything or making a mistake stop you from introducing Black histories into your classroom. You will not know the answer to every question students ask. You may make mistakes, but if you position yourself as a lifelong learner of Black histories, you can do this work. And so something I always tell any teacher that I work with is that you got to educate yourself, just like you would if you didn't understand a science concept or a math concept. You do the same thing if you're not sure what the history is or who all played a role in it. You just have to educate yourself. You can read a book, you can watch a documentary, you can attend a conference or a session, you can listen to podcasts. Reading picture books, I've learned so much just by reading a picture book, because as I said, the authors do so much research and they always put that information at the end of the book. So educate yourself and be able to at least guide your students where they can answer their questions, even if you're not sure what the answer is. I remind us to start with Black innovation and joy and pride, to go beyond the civil rights movement, because Black history was occurring before, during, and after that time. Look for Black people throughout world history. That's what my sweatshirt says. Black history is world history. They are there. African-American history isn't the only Black history. So go outside of that. Go outside of where we live. I've recently been learning about Canadian Black history. There's a picture book about Viola Desmond and her fight for civil rights in Canada. So bringing those other worldviews in of Black history. Make space, room, and time for Black people, their histories, their present, and their futures. And then understand that no Black history is too hard for children to learn. There are developmentally appropriate ways to teaching all kinds of history. But again, I'm always go back to them picture books, y'all. Read a book. It's really, really important, and it really can do a lot in your classroom. And then I end the book with frequently asked questions about Black history education. After presentations, webinars, and workshops, I often receive a variety of questions about teaching Black history. And so I answer a few of them here, but I also had a high school history teacher, Leo, and a second grade teacher, Tasha, who read my book as I was writing it. And so they also curated some questions that they thought were important for me to answer at the end of Beyond February. So those questions are in there as well. So questions about, being white and teaching Black history, looking at emotions. What if my children are emotional? What if all my students are white? Those questions are answered in the back of the book. And regardless of what you teach, whom you teach, or where you teach, I invite you to challenge the narrative that Black histories are to be kept locked in February for Black History Month instead of studied and celebrated in the classroom all year long. You are cordially invited to go beyond February with me. And Dawnavyn James said that, which is me. And I started with a video, so I'm going to end with a video. So I don't know if any of you have read Hair Love by Matthew Cherry. It's a beautiful book. I read it in my classroom. There was also like a short film made for the book, but now there is a series that talks about the entire family. There's 10 episodes. It's on HBO Max. It's really cute. Loretta Devine, Issa Rae, it's just really cute. And so this is a clip from that show. And then if you want to scan that QR code, you can find my Instagram, and then you can always email me at donovan@buffalo.edu. So keep in touch.
Oh, I don't know, maybe to learn something like you're gonna do right now. So if I can get everyone's attention before you all have a sugar crash, I'd like to show you a film on the great Angela Davis. What better way to honor Black History Month?
It's May 7th.
Every month is Black History Month in my class. Lights!
Thank y'all so much.
Let's do the gallery here. Everyone give Donovan a big hand clap or all that good stuff. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. As I mentioned, for the blurb that I did for the book, I said this is the book that elementary teachers have been asking for. Whenever we go, it doesn't matter where we go, right? There's always people asking about elementary Black history education. Where do I start? How do I start? Who should I teach? How should I teach? Et cetera, et cetera. So, this is the book where, all our K through third teachers, are asking for as well. A lot of the strategies are useful for older grades as well. So don't do that. So precisely, and just to remind everyone, and I remind everyone through our special issue of Education Week every single year, that Black History Month and Negro History Week was created not to be the only time where you teach Black history. What it is supposed to be is a celebration, a assessment, if you will, of what you have learned through Black history throughout the years, right? So as you all are going to your schools, make sure that you remind everyone that Black History Month should be a review. Black History Month should be a celebration. Black History Month should be something that ties to everything. All right, so Montana, search through the comments, see if there's any particular questions. If you have a question, please unmute and ask our nerd here. Question or comment. So if you just want to give love, that's fine too.
Thank you for the book. I already ordered mine. I missed some of the pictures while I was ordering the book, but I was determined to have the book. This is something I wish I had when I was teaching, but this is a great asset for those who are teaching now to understand that Black history is not in a box, but it's a part of life because we are still alive. And I will mute myself because I can go on.
Thank you, Miss Barbara Ann. I just love you. This Miss Barbara Ann's in my book clubs, y'all. We love Miss Barbara Ann. So thank you.
Also a reminder too, when you purchase the book, try to purchase the book from the publisher. That way Dawnavyn gets credit for the book instead of Amazon. Okay, so if you can purchase it from Routledge, all right, that will be great, and she'll get some royalties. She don't get royalties from Amazon, she get royalties from that, and she's a graduate student, so please help her.
That's correct, and that's where I went. I don't care what the price was. I couldn't find the promo code. Order the book from her. She deserves it because she put in the work. Amazon's rich enough. I'm gonna mute again.
Dory?
Thank you, Dr. King. Oh, this book is so needed. So I have a question specifically about my friends that are teaching early childhood education, 3s and 4s. Could this book be used for those children? And if you could expand on work with the 3s and 4s and how we begin with them.
Thank you for that question. I do believe so. Again, I think with 3 and 4-year-olds, reading the books, I know some of the books that I mentioned in the session are longer, but I list other books that are shorter for them. Even talking about identity, there's some like activities that are in here too that those teachers could use that I think 3 and 4-year-olds could use. And just the strategies of just having them look and just think and talk and question, I think will be important for them too. So I definitely think that they could use it, if not, for everything, but definitely the list of books.
Someone asked in the chat, is there any connection of your work to teacher certifications/training programs?
You know what? I have heard from some teacher educators that they plan to put this in their courses. So I think so. And I've also received feedback that, though I'm centering Black history, there's a lot of strategies, just teaching strategies that are that I use that are perfect for teacher educators to use with their pre-service teachers or in-service teachers. You don't know. So yes, thank you.
Yeah, we're definitely probably going to put it in the UB social studies, particularly the elementary course that we teach. So we're definitely going to do that here, and I'm sure a lot of the professionals around the country will do that as well. We'll also probably make it mandatory for our Teaching Black History certificate as well. Hey, Christine, how you doing? Go ahead.
Everybody, and Miss James,
Oh, Christine, we can't hear you.
Say,
It seems like there's a lag.
what about now?
Yes.
Okay, if I go out, okay. Am I still good?
Now you're going in and out. Someone said turn off the camera and see if that helps.
How am I now?
Yeah, we can hear you right now. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, if I go out, I'll just put something in the chat, okay?
Mhm.
This is fantastic. Thank you, Miss James, for this. Going back to early childhood, that's always been something that our community struggles with here. Then curriculum that would help the kids. This is something I've been working in the area for a while, so I'll be in touch with you. Thank you so much. This is beautiful, fantastic, and I'm encouraged.
Thank you so much.
Hey, Christine, can you type that in the chat? You were going in and out. I blame the man, the arbitrary man, right, who's trying to stop all this knowledge. So if you can kind of type it in the chat, we would be grateful.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Questions, comments, thoughts, love, any of that?
I'll share some love and some thoughts. Hey, Donovan. Hey, sis. I'm so excited about this book. I've already ordered mine. Can't wait to get it. What I was wanting to share is that I've been collecting a list or making a list of Black History Month around the world. Like Costa Rica has one, and like to what extent do they actually celebrate it? So like I actually went to Costa Rica during that month, found out it was actually just a day, and there was no other sign of it anywhere in the country. But I'm trying to figure that out, like who's doing what and to what extent can it be shared, like an idea for us to show up and show out during that time, and we put on our own celebration of that culture during that time. Like we all go to Costa Rica during that month, like it's in August for them, but like, you know, Canada has one, UK has one, and so that could be something that you add in for that diaspora, just to give a more global context of this beautiful celebration of who we are. Yeah, I thought that'd be cool. Yeah, so thank you again for sharing. I can't wait.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you.
All right.
Also, for those who don't know, this is for those who are Catholic. This is Black History Month for Catholics in November. So if you are Catholic and you haven't been celebrating your Black saints, then you need to get on them priests. All right. So yeah, but yeah, UK celebrates Black History Month in October, and their Black is a little bit different from our Black. All right. So you know, people from Southeast Asia would be considered Black in the UK. So they celebrate them as well as our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean that live in the UK, the Caribbean and countries in Africa. They celebrate people from Southeast Asia, including on Blackness. So if you would like to expand to the UK, be sure to include those particular folk as well, you know, for that. So yeah, so all for my Catholic folk, you know what I'm saying, y'all hadn't learned about, you know, folk, please you know, hold your churches accountable.
Someone asked, how do you address teachers who are in schools and states with book bans?
You know, I was just about to type the answer to that. I addressed that in the frequently asked questions section. I do recognize that there are people in states that are going through that. And I think I also note that I may not be the best person to ask that with, because I mean, I don't care. And I think I quote my mama, like, if they pushing you, you push back. So, but I do address that in the frequently asked questions, because I do, acknowledge that that is happening. But I always think that I know that you can always connect them to the state standards. Like, I wasn't just in my classroom, like, only Black history, y'all, like, forget all this other stuff. I made sure that if somebody came in, I'm like, okay, but this is the standard they're learning. So you can always connect it there. But thank you for that question. Absolutely.
And I just also want to share much gratitude to you, Donovan, and for this learning space. It kind of connects to that last question around the ways that we continue to spread this knowledge amongst surviving these different attacks to our intellectual freedom, and these learning spaces outside of the classroom, the Saturday school, things like that are really helpful for sustaining that work. So I just wanted to send congratulations. I'm really excited to copy of this book, and for all of the beautiful teaching and learning that it's been.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Jonathan, and you all.
So I do want to acknowledge Mama and Daddy James here for a quick second here. Can y'all unmute and say hello?
We can't hear y'all. Daddy.
He looked smooth, whatever he said.
Yeah. Say something.
Yeah.
No. You can call me later.
Well, I definitely want to, acknowledge them, because there's so many Black families. Black parents have the agency, Black grandparents have the agency, Black institutions have the agency, and really understand that Black folk and other people of color do not get their just due in our public schools and our private schools, whatever schools you go to. And it's a shout out to Black parents and Black institutions that leave space for us to learn about our history, because we understand the challenges that are faced in the schools in which we teach. So they are part of the legacy of Black institutions and Black parents that yield Black children to see themselves, even if they don't see themselves in school. So I personally wanted to say thank you for raising a wonderful and dynamic woman in Dawnavyn, and thank you for providing space for her to learn about herself and the pride in which she conducts herself with. So thank you.
Can I make one suggestion? There are a lot of churches who are developing Black history centers, programs, whatever, for children in churches. This is good information that needs to go to churches, because unfortunately, they might not know as much as they are presenting. So some truth and some knowledge, even sharing this book with some of those churches, might be helpful for people who are teaching this in their church. And it doesn't necessarily have to always be Black churches, because there are a lot of churches who have libraries, and this is information that they need. I'll mute again.
No, I'll have my daddy. My daddy's a preacher, pastor, so I'll have him start with his people. And he can pass it out. Yeah, you get on that, Daddy. Thank you. Give him a job to do, y'all. Yeah.
He did the toughest job of all. He had you.
So yeah, so please purchase the book. I'm sure a good number of the 182 people that registered for Dawnavyn's talk have probably purchased the book. But if you haven't, please purchase the book from Routledge. I know there's a special code. I think Greg put the code in the chat. So if you kind of put it on top, Greg, we'll appreciate it. I think last time I checked, it was like $7 or $10 off or something like that, or 20% off or something. Also, if please reach out to Dawnavyn if you would like her to speak at organization, at a community event, in your classes and everything like that. You can definitely talk to her about her fees. All right, for that, or whatever the case may be, because if you have it, I think it's proper to pay people there for their labor. She worked really hard on the book. I believe it's like 2-3 years you wrote it. Please support her in that particular aspect. I truly believe in Dawnavyn and believe in the work. So go ahead and knock it out. All right, so we have a few more seconds. Are there any other final comments or questions or thoughts?
Good morning, Miss James. I feel the same way as Miss Fields. Awesome. I was so busy trying to buy the book, so but I was listening. Awesome, awesome. I am still currently in the education field, no longer in the classroom, but as she said, I wish I had this when I was in the classroom. Now I'm just fighting with schools to keep my kids in school. But congratulations to you and your family. Awesome job. And I will share it at Emmanuel.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
And someone asked, here's my email, y'all. Dawnavyn@buffalo.edu.
And the QR code is for what?
Instagram.
Okay. All right. Once you get her information, contact her, hey, until the second Saturday of December, you all have a wonderful. If you're in those book clubs, if you're in Richard's book club, please sign up for Daphne's book club. We'll put that in our email for you all. But yeah, tell Dawnavyn, great job in the chat, so she'll have that, and we'll see y'all later.